Alright, so it's been a little bit more of a chill day. Does it not mean we're not gonna get anything else done? Just scraping off this. Alright, so yesterday we got some piano done. We're in vlog. Oops. We got vlog 8 done already. We're probably reading mandatory symbols today. We're at 75 push-ups. We gotta hit coding, for sure hit coding. I really want to get into bankroll again. So, and we knocked that journal yesterday too, so we'll probably start. Let's start with coding, just so we get that out the way. And then we probably go into reading, and then bankroll, and then if anything, we'll skip the piano. That's what we're planning for today. Alright, it's a great day. I wrote, or let me make it look a little nicer, a little more compact. But I wrote all this code by myself. I mean, I used kind of context clues from these other ones. But all in all, from the notes I wrote, from everything, I wrote this code by myself. I wrote my own loop. I wrote my, what is it called? Control flow. So I use control flow, I use the loop, and I use my user input, and that's everything I learned up to this point. Last week I learned more over the control flow. This week I learned more over the loop. And then the last week too, I learned user input and print. And so I put it all together. I learned what int was earlier this week. I learned what these, what do we call these? Your compare values, which are these equal signs, these less than or more than. And so I put all these into congregation. First, wanted to ask me, well, not Python, ChatGPT asked me to create something that would write a program that would check whether the numbers, look in here, write a program that would check whether a number is positive or negative or zero. And that took me 2 seconds. I mean, you didn't even use a loop in there. You only used basically I added this loop, and then I added these user inputs at the bottom, because I was struggling so hard to figure out how I can get the work and exit. And so I was able to figure that out, and just by trial and error. And I know, like, it's a good learning way. Obviously, I can just ask ChatGPT every time, but let's go into the terminal and look up this code. And so, welcome to number checker. When done, type exit, check your number now. So I got like 90. Oh, positive. Exit? No. Alright, check your number. 7,000, negative 7,000. Negative, exit? No. Realistically, you can type anything in there and it will answer that. It'll do anything, like I'll show y'all now. Like, and then I can type in yes, and then it'll pop with that. So that's the only inconsistency, but like we're not looking for that. We're just looking at this option. And so you go 0, este 0, and then you just go exit, and we're out. And that's just solo coding. That's just being able to do it by myself, which I'm super proud of that. That's like 2 weeks in, and so this concludes of like 1.5, and now we're gonna move into more difficult. Not more difficult, but we're gonna go into a different thing. This was quite difficult to learn, honestly. Loops, I struggled with loops, but with just accounting enough time every single day to learning it, I got it down. And just I further asked ChatGPT questions if we want to look at the chat log. So whenever we'll start down here. I got to what does int do, because here it would show me what int, and I was like, what's int? I had no clue what int was. I don't know if it's just, because I was like, what is int? So I asked what int was, it broke down what int was, and it means integer. You can do the same thing for like strings and everything. And so that'll just change your string into a integer, to a real number. And so then I asked, can you break down this further, which was a range 5 print I, and this was for the loops for if. And the range 5, I was just confused about kind of specifically what that was. And then it said I, so I is just a variable, so you can really create this variable as anything. So you could put like cafe in there and it will still be in range of 5, and then it would just turn the variable into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just giving it a value moreover the range. And then I asked further questions, said, do you want me to lock in how loops and do you want me to do that? If you want, I can make a tiny exercise. So I made it an exercise. It made an exercise for me, and I knocked out the exercise, and so it made sense for me. And then I went down to user input exit, try to quit, break this down further. Question would be, what is user input and was the importance of it equal it to? And so that was just the difficulty of me not understanding the variables, and I had to break down. So this is me just constantly, I view ChatGPT as like a teacher, so I just constantly ask it to elaborate on things and break it down for me to better understand it. And so I went through the whole understanding, and that gave me the ability just to write my own just now. And then it says, do you want me to create a mini exercise? It created me a mini exercise, secret word game, and I completed that exercise. It kind of gave me it, but get a hint towards the measure of positive thing. And so this was whatever I did. But as soon as I saw that, I'm so dumb for knowing that positive and negative. That's when I looked it up. Because I was doing odds and evens. And odds and evens is a greater difficulty, but that's a challenge to tackle next time. But basically, if we look here, week 1 to 2 practice. So this is phase 1 of the practice plan. And so understanding basic syntax. And so I understood that. Practice variables and data types. It took 2 to 3 days. I finished that. That's simple. And then control flow. I finished that. And then the second half of control flow was loops. And I finished that. So that was 3 to 4 days. So realistically, this should have took me a week. But then again, it took me a little longer. Wait. That'd be like 3 weeks, because this is like 1 to 2 weeks. So if it took 2, 5, 7, so yeah, that would take a week. And then for maximum, it would take 4, 3, 7, 10. So yeah, it's roughly, yeah, it took me about like 1.5 weeks. So basically what the plan was, I'm not even done. But yeah, so this was that part that I learned. So while the programming while loop. And so I did one of these exercises, checking the positive number, and then I added the exit to tie into the loop form of it too. And so now next time we're gonna practice functions, understand how to create functions, organize code. And so that's gonna be even more fun. But I'm real happy for the code I wrote by myself. For the sake of my newfound book club, we'll go over today's pages of reading 61 to 66 on Mandated Symbols by Carl Jung. Yeah, I didn't read too much today, but I swear every day I read probably 5 pages now, which is barely anything. I used to read way more than this back in the day, but we're getting back to it like we've been saying. But I'll read the summary I created. Following the last part, he talks further about the girl's dreams and how they don't represent the dreams of other girls at that age. Of if this were dreams of a medicine man, they wouldn't be so odd to accept. But since it was a young girl, why was she having dreams that would reflect a person in later years? As a girl who hasn't hit puberty and her ultimate untimely death so soon, was it so odd now that the dreams presented death? Furthermore, you go into history where some of those dreams have similar stories, but none the girl would know, furthering the idea that these are origins of the architects and motives are instilled through us through evolution. And how conscious came to become was through much anguish and mental hardship that stuck with early Bushmen through time, giving a mind that can look internal on how things make us feel. He tells of a man who chased women around the world, and when he got her, she showed him her cancer-ridden breast, and after he became one of the most active and devoted followers of the church. This example brings to light the previous point that after a man felt so much emotional, his archetype was now set free. He goes on to tell 2 stories of men dreaming of fire, and soon one of themselves and another die by another one close to the other, both die by a fever. Young implies that the unconscious can piece together and rationalize thoughts before our consciousness can, and the unconscious presents the consciousness these ideas within a dream. And so I'm not done with the whole kind of like the whole section. You'd say a subchapter basically. I'm not done with it. So whenever I do finish it, I'll revisit this whole idea and piece everything in together into a more concentrated summary of that whole thing. But yeah,